Returning to the Victorian election now, and we're joined by Victorian Liberal MP Brad Rowswell, who's hoping to secure another term as the member for Sandringham. Great to see you, Brad. How are we going to get rid of Dan Andrews?
Rowan.
Come on, mate. Can you please reassure me? You guys are going to win. We're going to get rid of Dan Andrews, and in 2 weeks' time on Sunday, you'll be here on the show saying, yes, we did it.
Well, I didn't leave a highly paid private sector job to be in a losing team, Rowan.
Good.
You just played clips of Andrews time and time again, obfuscating and doing a Dan. And the Victorians are sick of it, mate. Victorians are absolutely sick of it. And there's an opportunity on the 26th of November to do something about that, to say bye-bye, Dan, and to move on with our lives, to move on with a better, brighter, more optimistic future in Victoria. And that's the opportunity we have. Early voting starts on Monday. I encourage every Victorian who's been affected over these last 2 years, who's been locked up, who's been locked down, who's had a loved one who hasn't received the surgery that they need in the time that they need it, who's had a loved one who's died waiting for an ambulance to arrive that's never arrived, to go and vote early and to send a very, very clear message. Now more than ever, we have an opportunity to get rid of Daniel Andrews, and I encourage every Victorian to do just that.
Rita.
What are spirits like within the party? Because the polls, you can say we're not watching the polls, but the polls are the polls, and they're telling us that he's going to get a third term and it's going to be quite comfortable. So do you see a path to victory, a realistic path to victory?
Well, I don't want to be a commentator on the polls, but they are tightening, and we've got a 33% undecided rate at the moment, narrowing down to around 20%, and those polls, those undecided voters will decide over the next few weeks who they're going to vote for, and my understanding is that quite a few of those people are actually coming onto the side of the Liberal Nationals coalition because they know that only a Liberal Nationals coalition. We are the only party who can actually offer a better, brighter future for Victorian people and an alternative to Dan Andrews. And that's another message that I think is really important, Rita. There are lots of candidates running from lots of different parties. There are independents, there's Teal Party people. But any person that puts their hand up to stand in this election, if they get a vote, they risk the potential of having another 4 years of Daniel Andrews. The only way to get rid of Daniel Andrews is to vote Liberal at this state election.
James.
OK, Brad, you say that and you've got a better vision for Victorians, but, observing from New South Wales, I haven't seen much of that articulated, frankly, by the Liberals there. I have seen a lot of Me Tooism with the Libs going and following in the same path as Labor on things like, climate and emissions targets and, free public transport and, things like that. But where are the actual, the strong, solid conservative future? Where are those values being articulated, to try and get Victorians to come over and vote for you?
Well, James, coming from New South Wales, you'd know that Victoria has more debt in this state compared to New South Wales, Queensland and Tasmania combined. That's Victoria's debt level at the moment. Coming from New South Wales, you will know that integrity has been a real issue. I mean, we've got a Premier and a Labor government being investigated by 4, maybe 5 IBAC investigations at the moment. I think that grubby political hands should be far removed from the independent, broad-based Anti-Corruption Commission, and we can't say for a fact that that is the case in Victoria at the moment under Labor. We've said that we will beef up the powers of IBAC and will further invest in it. As the Deputy Chair of the Parliament's Integrity and Oversight Committee for the last 4 years, I've seen firsthand the fact that Labor have ripped money out of IBAC. IBAC every single year has been saying we need more money to do more work to get to the bottom of corruption in this state. And every single year, at the very best, they're surviving, their budget is surviving on a treasurer's advance. So at the whim of a politician. Worse, at the whim of a Labor politician. So we're just got to get away from this, James. So if you want fiscal responsibility restored in the state, vote Liberal. If you want integrity restored in the state, vote Liberal. If you want to call for an ambulance and get an ambulance arrive if you want to be seen in an emergency department, and if you want to reduce the 100,000 Victorians on our hospital waiting list, on our surgery waiting list at the moment, vote Liberal on the 26th of November.
Well, it's incredible because everything you've just said there, everything from the enormous debt, the highest in the country, the integrity scandals, the massive cost blowouts in projects, the world's longest lockdown, all of this should have you sitting as hot favourites to beat Dan Andrews, but that's not the position we're in. You personally are facing quite a challenge in your seat of Sandringham. Tell me what role the teals are going to play in these elections, because they're there and they're active.
You're right, Rita. My margin's 0.1%, and I don't take that for granted. It's my first term, and I hold the seat by about 200 votes by one measure. I just look to the last 4 years and look to the work that I've undertaken in my own seat. I think it will be a seat-by-seat result on the night, and there'll be some surprises as well. But for me, I could focus on my opponents, and I could spend time worrying about them. Frankly, I'm not. My head's down, my backside's up, and the thing that drives me and motivates me to do what I do in this role is for a better community. I was born locally, I've lived locally all my life, and I stand ready to serve my local community for another 4 years in my electoral district of Sandringham. And yes, there are independents running against me. They have every right to do that. There are independents running against some of my colleagues. There's Teal Party candidates running against other colleagues. And it's just interesting, in the last 24 hours or so, these people say they're on about integrity. But at first pass, when they've got an issue with the Victorian Electoral Commission, the way the election's being run in terms of preferences and how to vote cards, at first pass, what do? But they attack the Victorian Electoral Commission. They attack the Victorian Electoral Commissioner, and they can the system that they want to be a part of. So, look, as I say, and as I've said before, if you want a change of government, vote Liberal. Any other vote for any other candidate or any other party, Teal Party or otherwise, risks another 4 years of Daniel Andrews. I can't say it any clearer than that.
Brad, I think that you absolutely put it correctly, and I think Victorians have to think very, very hard over the next couple of weeks about, yes, OK, maybe the Liberals haven't been everything they could have been, but the thought of another term of Dan Andrews should fill most Victorians with horror. Certainly fills the rest of Australia
with horror. Let's see the back of him.
Exactly. So good luck, and hope we get to speak to you on that morning when it's yeah. Let's hope so.